I am criticized ad nauseum by people who believe me to be a pessimist, who are absolutely wrong about what I am. There are three different options to the is the glass half full question. It's either half full, half empty, or always completely full, just not with what you happen to want. That's what I am. I'm a scientist. I know that right now this glass is full. It's not full of what's supposed to be in here, unknown number 10. And unlike this one, it's not full of money. Well, this one isn't full anyway. But no one's going to be upset about having some money, right? This is completely full. It's still completely full. It's just not full of anything that anyone wants. Unless, of course, you're in the space station and this is all the air that's left. Then it would become very valuable. So here's the problem with that. The optimism-pessimism thing acts from a place of binaryism. And almost all absolutes are intended to be manipulative and force you to pick one or another without leaving you a third option. Almost all of students know that there are more than one choice on a multiple choice, and sometimes more than one of those is correct. And so it stands to reason that not everything is true, false, 1 or 0, yes or no, optimist or pessimist. I may sound like a pessimist, but that's not really what it is. As a scientist, I make decisions based on the mathematical propensity. When I look at a situation that isn't scientific, I look at it the same way. I look at what is the most likely outcome to happen, not the one that I hope is going to happen or the one that I'm afraid is going to happen, optimism, pessimism, but the one that is the most likely to happen. I'm criticized all the time for telling people that I'm probably a 4.5 out of 10 on the look scale, because, mathematically speaking, that's probably where I am. Now, of course, there's some subjectivity to looks, and at certain times or certain days, if I'm wearing better clothes than this raggedy shirt, then I might look different and may move up or down the scale appropriately. But statistically speaking, on average, most people are average. And so there's a realm where things are most likely to occur. Okay? In the summertime, it's most likely to be hot. In the wintertime, it's most likely to be cold. Every now and then we have a record-breaking day, which is a deviation from the mean or an outlier. And so what we have is a whole bunch of people leading their lives based on outliers. Pessimism, optimism. That's an outlier mentality as opposed to a statistical predictive model, which is what I use. So when something happens, I look at it and go, what's the most likely thing to happen? Based on my experience, my measurements, and my measurements, what is the most likely going to be the outcome? And that's what I build my expectations around, which means that if it exceeds my expectations, I'm pleasantly surprised. And that I knew going in there was a chance that I was not going to get the outcome that I wanted, but I was willing to take the risk because the math was sound. And so when I look at this is completely full. I don't want what's in it. I'm not saying that it's empty. I'm saying I don't want it. And that's where people label me a pessimist, because I don't want what's available. Well, I'm sorry, but if this is split pea soup, most babies are not going to want to eat this. I don't care how good it is. I don't care how good it is for you. Almost no child likes certain types of baby food because they don't taste good. And most adults don't eat baby food either, regardless of the fact that even during the pandemic, the baby food aisle was fully stocked. Wish I had pictures. Didn't know I was going to do this, and I would need them. It's not that I'm an idiot. It's not that I'm a doomsayer. It's that I look at stuff and go, is there an outcome in this that I want? What are the odds I'm going to get it? And that's how I make my decisions. And if the odds aren't good, I don't bother, usually. Years ago, I took a risk on a relationship where I knew there was a really, really small chance of it working out. But it had the very best possible rate of return I could have ever imagined. And so I figured it was worth taking the risk to find out, because I knew if I didn't take the risk, then it would not work. It didn't work out, but if it had worked out, I would be singing a totally different tune. And maybe I would appear to be an optimist. But that's because something would have worked out way above and beyond my expectations. So when it didn't work out, I wasn't happy about it. You can read about it on my blog. It was very clear that I was not happy about it, but I wasn't surprised by it. And people will look at me and go, well, you're just manifesting bad things happening. No, I ran the numbers, and the numbers said, you're probably not going to have anything in here at the end of the day. And so I don't bother. Just a few days ago, a woman I know tried to convince me to go on a blind date. Well, unless the girl is blind, I probably don't stand much of a chance, because what is she going to see when I show up? She's going to see a middle-aged dude who dresses in non-label brand clothing, who is practical and not ostentatious. I'd have a 20-year-old car. I would have an older one if it hadn't been stolen. And I don't really seem to be all that flashy. In other words, I don't usually impress people on first contact. She even told me, shortly before trying to convince me, I wish people knew how funny you were. Well, people don't get to know how funny you are unless they spend time with you. All they know is that I'm funny looking. So they'll see the beard, they'll see the white, they'll see the weight, and they'll not bother to find out in many cases if there's anything beyond that. I do the same thing because it does tell you a little bit about their behavior and their commitment to self-improvement. I reached a point in my life where I don't care to impress people who don't like me. I also know, because I did date this one statistically abnormally possible woman, what it's like when someone actually likes you. I know that if you don't care, you find an excuse. And if you do, you will bend over backwards trying to find a way. And for a long time, she bent over backwards trying to find a way until her parents broke her and convinced her to take another path entirely. So, I look at things not as are they half empty or half full, but how likely is this going to be to have the outcome that you wish it would have? Mathematically speaking, most blind dates don't work. I can't think of anyone I know that met their spouse on a blind date. Now, there are people who meet on dating apps. That's a little bit different. By the time you meet, you have spoken a little bit, and you've probably seen each other because they recommend that you talk first through some sort of online medium before you meet up. So they're not a blind date. It's like anyone else. There's things you don't know about them. So I don't know anyone that met on a blind date. I know there are cultures that do arranged marriages, but that's a totally different topic in itself. And so, mathematically speaking, the odds of a blind date working are basically zero. They're not at zero. There's an asymptote above zero for everything, well, that I'm aware of. If it's so close to zero, it's not worth bothering. The last blind date I went on, I kid you not, I got out of the car and she looked at me and she looked at the car and I don't know what it was, but she basically left swiped on me. This is before swiping in apps, but because I haven't been on a date since 2015. But she was done. I forced her to go anyway because I already spent the money. I've already driven all the way over to her side of the town. I already have the tickets. I'm already committed. The money is spent. It's a sunk cost. And I wanted to go because I'm not going to plan a date for something I don't want to do. Which might be why girls don't want to go, because it's not stuff they want to do. But they also won't tell you. I want you to plan. I'm trying to plan something you like, but you won't tell me what you like because you want me to plan stuff. You shouldn't have to ask. I don't know you. So I look at it and go, it's probably not going to work. I'm not going to bother. Could it work? Yes, that would be the optimistic thing. Is it definitely doomed to fail? Not necessarily. That would be the pessimist thing. The realist, or the scientist in me says, based on the mathematical probability, it's not worth bothering. I worked in a clinical reference laboratory doing research. Those are my first publications, if you can find them, where we would do stuff and trying to develop diagnostic tests for diseases as part of a molecular genetics program at the company there. So people would come in for genetic counseling, have their children or their embryos tested, and mathematically decide whether or not they wanted to move forward with the pregnancy. Wow, that sounds terrible. I didn't understand that part because I was really young, so I was just making tests, and I was using my knowledge, skills, and abilities to develop scientific tests. And I remember coming into my boss once and saying, here are the results, and I can't get them to be consistent. And she said, then toss it, because it's mathematically unlikely that we're going to make it work. We're going to go after something that will. And that's the practical scientist. We go after things that are likely to yield results. So I spend my time, my effort, my money in things that are likely to work out. I have a garden. I have hobbies. I have a dog. I travel Europe because I know that those are things I can control. I cannot control whether or not a woman accedes to even go on a date, let alone to marry me. And since I have proposed to 5 different women in my life and I'm single, you can tell what my mathematical expectations are about a woman actually agreeing to marry me. Because I know no way of judging the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what justifies those hopes with which these people seem pleased to solace themselves, because it's not adding up for me. I understand the power of positive thinking. I understand that people think I am inviting doom and gloom into my life. I don't think that's it at all. I think I'm just simply doing the math, crunching the numbers, and then playing the numbers and going after the things that are most likely to give me something that I want. And most things aren't going to give me something that I want in the end, especially when women talk about I, me. And jobs are like, well, we want this specific, you need to be 25 and have 20 years of experience. Or we're going to pay, $12 an hour for 20 years of experience starting. Yeah, good luck with that. And so there's lots of things I don't even bother because the odds are it's not going to work. I applied twice to be the laboratory manager here. I was not even given an interview. The third time, before they hired the guy that's there now, the dean himself came to me and asked me to reapply. And I said, what are the odds that it's going to be a waste of my time? Because I've applied twice already and I didn't even get an interview. And he doesn't have any say in it until it makes it past the selection who gets an interview. And he's like, oh, I didn't know you had applied. Yes, because I didn't even make it to the stage where you would know. And the guy that they hired is more qualified than I am. And so I would have, once again, been wasting my time. So I made the right call based on the math. And people are like, oh, you're just pessimistic. And you're inviting negative things. No. Recognizing patterns and inviting things into your life are two completely different things. I ran the numbers, looked at the patterns, and said I would be better off spending my time eating shards of broken glass than applying for this job again to have the same thing happen. Because I think it's Albert Einstein who said, one definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Some of these people are not optimistic. They're delusional. They can call it whatever they want to. The power of positive thinking, the think system, these are tales as old as time about people who delude themselves into thinking things. And then, because it happens for some of them, they then market it and convince other people that that's what it takes. Well, let's not pretend that there's not a facet of luck and timing that also play into the outcomes. Because, yes, you might miss every shot you don't take, but you miss a lot of shots that you do. And I ran the numbers and said, there are certain things I'm going to put my time and attention into. And that's a realist. That's a scientist. I'm not a pessimist. I'm a realist. And I know what is likely to happen, and I know what is not likely to happen. And so I will go down a path for a while until I decide that the numbers are stacked against me, and then I will quit. Not because I've quit life, but because I've quit putting good money after bad. And you should too. Make good decisions. Spend your time and your efforts wisely because you can't get them back. And I don't want you to end up at my age having done as I have and pursued things that were never going to work out in the name of optimism. Godspeed. Take care.